right, so this is going to be objective 1-1. What's an objective? If you have an objective for the day, what's an objective? Something you want to do, something you want to accomplish, okay? And that's how we're going to label our notes is we're going to label them by units. So this will be 1-1, and then the next one will be 1-2, the next one will be 1-3, and so forth and so on, okay? So we're going to talk about algebraic expressions. What's an algebraic expression? What's algebra mean? It doesn't just mean math. I mean, yes, it's a class in math, but an algebraic expression, first of all, I relate expressions to like phrases. You with me on that? And I relate sentences to equations. Okay, like a phrase is part of a sentence, correct? An entire sentence is a complete, start to finish with a period. So in math, a complete equation is, it's got equals, it's got two sides. If it's just an expression, it's just a piece of it. Does that make sense? It's just like a little phrase. Does that make sense? So meaning, I'm not solving for x. We're not doing equations, okay? It's just a little piece of it, and it's an expression that contains at least one variable. If it's algebraic, if it's just an expression, then it may just be numbers, like PEMDAS, like adding, 2 plus 3 times 5 divided by 8. But if it's an algebraic expression, that means we're going to add in variables for it, okay? That means we're going to add in variables. So you tell me, what's a variable? Letters, could be letters. They're letters that represent unknown quantities, meaning they can stand for anything. And you will know, like those going to Algebra 2, in America, we have how many letters in the American alphabet, English alphabet? 26, okay? How many different things do we need to stand for? Like in the whole entire world. Like if you think science, science just uses variables too, correct? Y'all know that? They use variables. We use variables. We know that capital C stands for what? Anybody know what capital C? What do you in math? How about circumference? Capital A stands for area. Capital V stands for volume. Lowercase w stands for width. Lowercase r stands for radius. You with me on this? Like we have certain variables that mean certain things. And guess what? 26 is not enough of them. So guess what? At the end of this class and in Algebra 2, as you continue in your math, it's not just American letters. We go into the Greek alphabet and we use things like mu and sigma and things like that. And everybody gets so confused when we use mu and we use sigma and we use other variables like that because they think it's strange because they're not comfortable with them, but they're still variables. Okay, it's any symbol, letter, or symbol. That's what I was getting at. It can be a symbol that represents something you don't know. Okay, we simplify algebraic expressions by applying the order of operations. Okay, so what's our order of operations? PEMDAS. Okay, so let me scroll up. So let's talk about PEMDAS in the order here. Okay, so P stands for, don't worry about this side right now, just look at this. P stands for parentheses. Will it always be parentheses though? No. It may be, what else? We got parentheses. What else might it be? Okay, very good. Two straight lines. What are two straight lines? You may remember, like if I put a 3 in there, that would be absolute value. Very good. What's absolute value? What's absolute value of 3? 3. What's absolute value of negative 3? 3. So how did you know that? You just take the positive. I agree. That's the easy way out. Definition of absolute value is it's a number's distance from 0. So imagine I'm on a number line, and I'm at 0. You with me? And I'm going to go 1. And so I'm standing on negative 3. How far am I to 0? How many steps? 3, right? And then what if I go over 3 this way? Now I'm standing on positive 3. how many steps I am to 0. Am I negative 3 steps? I'm still 3 steps, right? It doesn't matter what direction. When you do distance, it doesn't matter what direction you go in. It's always positive. So you got absolute value. Very good. I heard brackets. Okay. Sometimes you use brackets like if you have a really complicated one where you have like a set of parentheses and then a set of brackets and you have stuff on the inside. So brackets act like parentheses. You wouldn't want to do like parentheses, parentheses, parentheses because that would get really confusing. So that's why they use brackets. So it's something different. Does that make sense? So you can like not get so confused. Okay. Anybody know anything else? What else? What other symbols like hold numbers together?
What was the third point?
This one? How about roots? Square roots? Okay, if I put a set of numbers under there, would you do those first? You would do what's under the radical first. So, or, you know, we're going to even get into maybe some cube roots and some fourth roots and fifth roots, any type of symbol that holds numbers together. In my crazy mind, I like think that all these symbols are like giant arms. You know what I'm talking about? Like Inspector Gadget arms. You know what I'm talking? Like, and they hold numbers together. And anything that holds, you know, even if it's a root or a bracket or absolute value or parentheses, it's going to hold numbers together. You're going to do whatever that is first. Okay? So, then exponents come second. After that is multiply and divide. Do you multiply or do you divide first? Always? Every single time?
Left to right.
Very good. Left or right? Any questions on that? It's whichever one. So sometimes it's divide first. So that's why these are on the same row. Okay? Sometimes it's divide first. Sometimes it's multiply first. You don't know how many arguments I've had with students. They're like, Ms. Corns, please excuse my dear. My comes before dear, so you multiply before you divide. And, you know, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally is a great way to remember things. But, you know, as you get older, you have to kind of like add to it, right? So these two go together, whichever one comes first from left to right. And then add, subtract is the same way, whichever one comes first from left to right. So sometimes you add first, sometimes you subtract first. Okay? All right, let's check out. These are your steps. Use parentheses around numbers that are being raised to a power or that are being multiplied. Okay, so sometimes parentheses, it might have, ooh, that's not good. Jump. Sometimes in parentheses, it might have like 2 plus 3 in the middle of it. So would you do that first? Yes, okay. And then sometimes you might see this. So would you do that first? Let me put something else. Plus okay, so let me add something to it. So would you do that first? You do the exponent first. What's the difference between here? Everybody says, but Ms. Coins, parentheses goes first. But this one's multiplication. Everybody see the difference? This one, you have to look on the inside. Is there something to do on the inside? Is there something to do on the inside there? Then that's not a grouping parentheses. Do you understand? That is a multiplication. Okay? And I know some of you are like, yeah, we've been doing this since 5th grade. And I'm like, I understand that, but I need you to understand this. In Algebra 2 and in AFDA, long gone are the days that you could get away without checking your answers. How many of you, like, as you were growing up, your teacher said, did you check? Did you check? And you go, I checked. I checked. And you didn't check. You didn't check a bit, and you still did okay. How many, like, you told your teacher you checked, but you didn't check, and you still did okay? Yeah, because, like, I used to teach, you know, 8th grade, and I get that. But now in the upper level, you're going to learn something called extraneous solutions, meaning you do the problem correctly. Totally. You did it all correctly. But when you take it and you plug it back in and you work it out, the two sides don't match. And so is that answer correct? Even though you did it all correctly, that answer doesn't work. Does that make sense? I mean, it's like a baffling thing when I start to talk about extraneous solutions. But I always tell my Algebra 2 students, long gone are the days you can get away without a check, because you might have things that are extraneous, things that even though you did it right, it's still not the correct answer. So you're going to have to, and that's how you check. Your check step is PEMDAS. Like when we get into equations, so that's why I need to make sure that you understand all of this very clearly. Because if for years, okay, I've been teaching for a really long time. I guess probably for the first 10 years of my teaching career. I'd ask a class, I'd say, y'all know how to check? And they'd be like, yeah, just plug it in. And I said, okay, great, make sure you check. And then finally it dawned on me to see if they really knew how to check. So I asked one of my classes about 5 years ago, I said, y'all know how to check? Yeah, just plug in it for the variable. Just plug it in and yeah, do it. And I said, okay, show me. You wouldn't believe, out of a class of 20, how many couldn't do it. How many did not know how to check steps. Like 17 of them. Only like 2 or 3 in the class knew how to do it. Everybody else did not know how to check. And so that's what I'm going to make sure that you guys are really, really good at, is being able to check your answers and going back and plugging in. And I still have students that today, like they struggle. The number one most missed question on the Algebra 1 SOL, do you know what it is? What kind of question? Yeah, a PEMDAS question, order operation question. Baffles my mind because I teach them some really complicated stuff like the statistics and, you know, the functions and some really complicated stuff. Number one most missed question in Algebra 1 is algebraic expressions. PEMDAS. Kills me. All right, here we go. Let's do example 1. So, a minus 2b plus ab. For a is equal to 3, b is equal to -1. So what are we going to do with these? Plug them in. Okay, so a couple things here. When you plug in for a variable, you must use what? Parentheses. So everywhere there's a variable, I'm going to put a set of parentheses. Okay, everything else and signs are going to come straight down. Do you understand that? Blink once for yes, twice for no. I hope that was one blink. Or no blinks. Okay, here we go. So we're going to put a -1 inside. We're going to put a, oops, just kidding, that was an A. Oops. Yeah. All right, we're going to put a 3 here and a -1 here and a 3 here and a -1 there. So far, so good? Okay, so one step at a time. Until I get to know you, I realize, how many of you could probably actually do this in your head? Okay, I got a couple. But until I get to know you and your math skills, I want you to do one step at a time today. So when we're at the boards today and you're working, I want to see one step at a time. I don't even care if you go back. Remember in elementary school when y'all did the little, you know, triangle thing and you drew your lines? I don't even, like, if you still like to do that, do that. I still have people that do that. Okay? One step at a time. So, parentheses. Do I have grouping parentheses up here? Yes or no? No. These are all meaning what? Multiplication. There's nothing on the inside. Okay? So, step 2, exponents. Got any? Step 3, multiply and divide left to right. Got any? Yes. So, we're going to do this step, and I'm going to go ahead and do this step too. Okay? Why can I do both of those at the same time? Because they are what? They're both multiplication, but they are separated from each other. Does that make sense? If there were two separate things. So I'm going to bring down the 3. So -2 times -1 is +2. +3 times -1 is -3. Any questions on that so far? Signs or anything? Okay. Now, add and subtract left to right. What comes first? Add. Can I do this and this at the same time? No, why not? Right, and so like these two and those two, like the two's kind of split. So you got to do one at a time. So 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 minus 3 is 2. Okay, and like I said, if you want to, that makes you feel good, have at it. All right, let's bump it up just a little bit. So when you have a fraction, let's first plug in, and when I plug in, I'm going to use parentheses. So where does the square go? This is super important when you get your calculators, guys. Where does the square go? Does he go on the inside or does he go on the outside? Outside. The only thing that goes in parentheses, and I'm telling you, it's going to make a big difference in your calculator, whether you believe it or not. The only thing that goes inside the parentheses is what you're plugging in the variable. Brandon, you with me? Yeah, okay. Here we go. So we're going to plug in -2 here, plus 3, minus, and I'm going to use a set of parentheses, 4. Divided by absolute value of -2 times 4. So far, so good. All right, so here's a question. How do you work a fraction? So you work the whole top, you work the whole bottom, and then you go. Y'all want to try it on your own? Yeah? All right, go for it. I'll hit pause. Let's do the top first. When we work a fraction, we're going to work the top first, then we're going to work the denominator. So here we go. Parentheses up top. Is there anything to do in there? So that is not grouping. That's not PEMDAS parentheses. Do you understand? That's multiplication parentheses. Okay? So skip it. Exponent. Yes. So do you multiply those two and then square? Because that's like a really big mistake people do. You need to square this first. When you square something, that means you multiply it by itself. So -2 times -2 would be +4. Don't do this in your head. Like, take a minute and write everything else down, one step at a time. I only did one thing, okay? We are human, and I will be the first to tell you, when Miss Corns does things in her head, it's bad. It's really bad, because I'm so, like, all over the page. Like, I really have to sit there and do one thing at a time. I can't, like, chew gum and walk. All right, so what comes next? Multiplication. Notice I'm not even worrying about the denominator right now. Multiplication. So 2 times 4 is 8. Bring everything down. Then what comes next? 8 plus 3 is 11. Again, I still would write this down. I wouldn't even do this whole thing in my head. I would one piece at a time. So what's on top? 7. Any questions? How many got the 7 on top? Okay, fine. Good. All right, so we have 7 on top. Now, let's do the bottom. So, multiplication on the inside, so that's going to be 7 over the absolute value of -8. And we just talked about that. The absolute value of -8 is 8, a number's distance from 0 on the denominator. So how many finally got 7/8? Yes, good. Any questions? Better? All right, here we go. So, we're just going to do a couple more of these, and then I'm going to put you at the boards, okay? So maybe one more after this. So here we go. Let's plug in. With parentheses. Again, right here, the only thing that goes in the parentheses is what? 4, and the square goes on the outside. Okay? Down on the bottom, I'm going to have 8 times 4. And then here, I'm going to have 16 minus 4. Now, here's my question. Do I really need parentheses around this stuff right here? Why not? There's nothing around it. There's nothing on the inside. So, you know, I'm trying to help you make things simpler. Okay? So if it's by itself, you technically don't have to have parentheses around it. Like this stuff right, do you have to have parentheses around that 8? Yes. Do you have to have parentheses around that 4? Yeah, because it's got a square. You have to have parentheses there. Yes, because it's got a 4 on the outside, or it's got an 8 on the outside. It's got things around it, okay? But right here, there's nothing else around the 16 and the 4, so that's just 16 minus 4. And then here will be b squared, 4 squared. Okay, so how about I give you another second, couple seconds, work it out on your own, then slide to a group, ask questions, okay? Work it out, see what you come with. Are coming your way. Not today, but in this class sometime. All right, so here we go. So multiply or square first or subtract? All right, so I'm square 4, that's 16. Everything else just comes straight down. And again, I'm just working on this top piece right here. I'm not worrying about the other. So then I'm going to multiply and get 16 minus 16. And then I will subtract and get 0. Okay, so here we go. I have 0 divided by 8 times 4 plus 16 minus 8 over 4 squared. Okay, then pick another piece of the fraction to go to. What do you want to go to next? That's fine. You want to do this one next? Sure, it don't matter. So, like, you're just going to pick, like, a top or a bottom and work that whole piece. Don't look at the whole fraction, okay? Most people, how many, if you have fractions in your problem, you skip it and don't even do it? Like a lot of people, okay? So, it's okay. So, this will be 804 plus 16 minus 8. 4 squared would be 16. Okay, where do you want to go to next? Which one? 8 times 4? So this will be 32. I'm going to go ahead and do this one and get 8. Okay. What's 0 divided by 32? 0 plus 8 over 16. What's 0 plus anything?
0. I mean, the
Itself. And then what do you do if you get a fraction? You simplify it. And I'm so glad that I didn't even have to say that. Y'all did it on your own. You need to take that and simplify it. Okay? All right. One last one, then we'll get active. Okay? Let me finish it, and then you can go. Okay? When's a good time to ask to go to the restroom?
after the lesson.
After the lesson. Okay, here we go. All right. So what do we come up with? 7. Okay, so again, we go to the center of the center. So go from out of the brackets, the parentheses on the inside. Like once you get on the inside, you still have to follow PEMDAS from there. Does that make sense? So that's going to be 6 plus 4 minus 18 divided by 6. Okay, still work on the inside. So that would be 10. And again, once you're done with the parentheses, where can the parentheses go?
In the trash.
In the trash. Yeah, you can throw them away. Okay? Okay, minus 18 divided by 6. Do we subtract first or do we divide first? We're going to divide first. And so that will be 3, and you get 7. Okay? One step at a time. That's how it works. Okay? All right.